The Toys by Coventry Patmore. Coventry Patmore was an English poet and critic of the Victorian era. He was best known for his work Angel in the House, a narrative poem about the Victorian ideal of a happy married life. He was also known for his close association with Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood of Poets, headed by Dante Gabriel Rossetti. His first wife, Emily's death, left him in a deluge of grief and despair, and shades of that can be seen in his poem, The Toys. Shortly afterwards her death, he joined a Roman Catholic Church, and hence, later, spirituality became his greatest inspiration. Towards the end of his career, he was well known for his works of criticism. The poem The Toys goes like this. My little son, who looked from thoughtful eyes and moved and spoke in quiet grown-up wise, having my law the 7th time disobeyed, I struck him and dismissed with hard words and unkissed his mother, who was patient, being. Then, fearing lest his grief should hinder his sleep, I visited his bed, but found him slumbering deep, with darkened eyelids and their lashes yet from his late sobbing wet. And I, with moan, kissing away his tears, left others of my own. For on a table drawn beside his bed, he had put within his reach a box of counters and a red-veined stone, a piece of glass abraded by the beach, and 6 or 7 shells, a bottle with bluebells, and 2 French copper coins ranged there with careful art to comfort his sad heart. So, when that night I prayed to God, I wept and said, Ah, when at last we lie with tranced breath, not vexing thee in death, and thou rememberest of what toys we made our joys, how weakly understood thy great commanded good, then, fatherly not less than I whom thou hast moulded from the clay, thou'lt leave my wrath and say, I'll be sorry for their childishness. In his poem, The Toys, Coventry Patmore graphically presents how mortal man's love is inadequate and insignificant in comparison with the magnanimity and love of Almighty. The poem begins on an apologetic tone with a painful description of a child's grief when scolded and beaten by his father for having disobeyed him for the 7th time. He speaks of the thoughtful and inquisitive eyes of his son and the way he spoke wisely like a grown-up man. The poor motherless child retired to bed unkissed and unconsoled by his father. In his guilt, the father mourns the loss of his child's mother, who is not there to take care of his son, and who also had a lot of patience in comparison. With his guilt-laden heart, he decides to go to his room, only to find him in deep sleep, with eyes still wet with tears. His eyelids and eyelashes had turned dark as he had been crying for long. On observing the child, the poet becomes highly emotional and is unable to control his tears. With a heavy heart, he kisses his son's eyes, which are still wet, and his own teardrops fall. Then the father's attention caught the neatly arrayed toys on the bedside. A box of counters, a red-veined stone, a piece of glass, 6 to 7 shells, a bottle with bluebells, and 2 French copper coins. These toys have been carefully arranged by the child with such artistic perfection that father assumes that the child might have sought peace, comfort, and solace in them as he felt alone and dejected. The father is so pained by his son's grief that he turns to God for comfort. He realizes his own weaknesses and follies while offering his prayers to God that night. It dawns on him that he is nothing but a toy in the hands of God who created him out of clay. Almighty looks upon the Father as his own child and is magnanimous enough to overlook his foibles as an act of childishness, even if it is an act of punishing his child. Even at the times of crisis, instead of turning to God, man resorts to worldly trifles to find a solution. Still, God is all forgiving and affectionate to mankind. Even when man lies on his deathbed where he cannot trouble God anymore, God doesn't punish him. Father thinks with remorse how small is his love for his son in comparison to God's love for his mortal sons. He too could have looked upon his child's mischief as an act of innocent childishness and could have forgiven him. Though the poem expresses parent-child relationship, on a deeper level, it explores God's relationship with humanity. It advocates forgiveness and mercy and paints an emotional picture with a tone of spirituality. Toys can be seen symbolic for the need for emotional support, but it also refers to things which are mundane. The real joy can be attained only through divine blessings. The last line, I'll be sorry for their childishness, hints at divine mercy and forgiveness. Now let's compare the poem Any Woman by Catherine Tynan and The Toys by Coventry Patmore. Any Woman projects woman or mother as an indispensable person in the house. Her love and warmth holds the family together. Her precious children live and thrive only in her presence. She is the pillars of the house, the keystone of the arch, fire upon the hearth, etc. In The Toys, we see that absence of mother creates a vacuum in the life of both the son and the father. If mother had been alive, she would have been more patient with the child, thereby shielding him from father's rebuke. Her presence would have made their life lively and happy because it is a mother who makes the house a home. In that sense, both the poems are praising motherhood. As far as Any Woman is concerned, the poem is in the form of a mother's monologue, and her final entreaty to God is definitely the prayer of all women with maternal instincts. In Toys, father is a speaker, and his prayer to Almighty is in the form of a confession. In Any Woman, mother is portrayed as a very strong person who stands as a wall and rocky door, shielding her children from all dangers. In Toys, we find a father with a guilt-laden heart, weeping, weighed down by the woes of life. It is in contrast to the typical notion about men being strong and women being weak. Both the poems have biblical references. In Any Woman, there is a reference about the sacred ring and also the birth of Jesus in a manger. In The Toys, the divine creation of man out of clay is mentioned. In The Toys, we see that man's love for his child falls short of God's unconditional love for humanity. But in Any Woman, mother's love is portrayed as divine and eternal. Both the poems have beautiful visual images, fire upon the hearth, neatly arrayed toys, etc. As far as the rhyme scheme is concerned, Any Woman follows the ABAB pattern except for the first stanza, whereas in Toys we see an irregular pattern.